right, for this episode of FTK Over the Air, I am on the road, so it's not my normal background. However, if you only listen to us on audio, you would know that
This is
anyway.
all irrelevant to you.
Yeah, right. I did bring my travel mic, so hopefully the sound is okay. But yes, I am in a hotel room back to back, and we have the return of Lynne. Lynne, how are you doing?
I'm good. Things get busy, and you do just great on your own, interviewing all these amazing people in the industry. So you don't need me. I'll just show up when I show up.
I don't know if I'd go that far, but things have been busy for sure. We've had software launches, and we're almost ready to do another software launch, and we've a bunch of junk coming up. So
And we just
uh,
got back from the biggest forensic technology conference of the year.
that's right.
That was a big week. We had a big week last week. I know everybody had a big week. If you went to Techno Security on the East Coast in Wilmington, North Carolina, you had a great, fun, busy week.
I agree. I think it was interesting because I don't know what the numbers were, but it felt like there were more people this time than has been there. And I don't know if there were more people or if the people that were there this year were just more engaged. Um,
Yeah,
it
it
was, it
felt
was
it felt more alive and more energy. And I know I do we still say things like pre-COVID and post-COVID? I don't know. I feel like everyone's tired of talking about that. But yeah, it feels like everything's kind of getting back to quote unquote normal again, which is great, which is why we all like to get out on the road and talk to everybody and meet everybody and get
Yeah.
out there and mix it up. So yeah, it was a great week. It was a great week. And yes, now I'm sure, just like all of you out there, we're trying to catch up on all the stuff we should have done last week that we did not. And now we're going to have to try to do double duty this week, but that's okay.
Yeah, or like Sumter and I and DLP, we just caught a flight to the next one because we're here at Atlanta ICAC right now. So
Yeah, you guys and anyone who's out there that is a road warrior, where you guys are week to week at one conference or another, constantly, like claps, applause to you, because I don't know how you do it. 1 week out of my life was upending.
it was enough. So I do, and of course I've told you this story, but travel is its own beast, and you do it a lot, you kind of get used to it, and of course I only fly the airline that I fly, so I get used to the airports, so everything's kind of a machine for me now when I travel. But
Not this time.
no, um, one
Not
of
this
the
time.
one of the things that I I don't like about the location of Techno is it's hard for me from a small place in Eastern Washington to get to it. So I have to go from Eastern Washington to Denver, Denver to New Jersey, and New Jersey down to Wilmington. And so it's always, kind of sketch when you have more than one layover. And so I get to Denver just fine. And I had a 2.5 hour layover initially. So I go to the lounge and I'm just sitting there doing whatever. And I get a notification that we've been delayed for 2 more hours.
Ugh.
Now, my layover in New Jersey, though, was 3 hours. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, okay, I've still got an hour. Like, we're all good. Whether I'm sitting in a lounge here, I'm sitting in a lounge in New Jersey. It's
Yeah.
sixes.
I have good sneakers on. I can make my way there as quickly as possible. I'll be fine.
Right, exactly. So I head down to the gate, and the plane's still not there, but we should be boarding in like 10 minutes. Not a
Yeah.
good sign because, if the plane's not there, they haven't cleaned it, the people haven't got off, they haven't
Yeah.
got the new crew to check it out. So
We know
it's
where
like
this is going.
you're
Yeah, you're
still an
stuck here.
easy half hour, at best on a quick turnaround. So finally the plane shows up, then they go through the half-hour cleanup, then we board, and now the delay means that I'm landing at the time that my next flight is supposed to board. And so I'm like, well, a lot of times they'll make up time in the air, but we didn't make up any time in the air because of the storms. They may have been going faster flying, but they had to dodge storms, and it was just like it felt like it's like, you got to be kidding me, everything's whatever. But still optimistic because I ditched roller bags this year.
Mm.
I don't check a bag and I don't do roller bags. I've bought it's packed, PAKT, not sponsored, but if you want to, we'll allow
Yeah.
it. Uh, but it's the best. So it's this huge backpack, but it allows me to, I can board with any group, and usually just it's fine. Anyway, so I'm like, as long as we get there, get to the gate, I'll be able to make it before boarding ends and make it down to Wilmington, no problem. We get to New Jersey, which is my least favorite airport outside of San Francisco. They're my two least favorite, but and
It's
we
not
start
ideal. Yeah.
yeah, we start doing laps on the tarmac because of course we are, because the shape of the EWR airport means that planes that are departing block the whole freaking terminal and you can't get in because there's no room. So we're doing now laps on the tarmac and whatever. Fortunately, okay, so that's the situation. But rewind just a little bit. I switched seats to get closer to the door because I have this 0 minute layover, and the flight attendants let me sit in the exit row, the actual exit row. And it's that awkward where you're like, you're facing forward, but they're in a jump seat facing backwards. So it's like you're face to face, and you're like, I don't know where to look right now, because if I look down, I'm staring at your feet. But if I, then we're like staring into each other's eyes, and it's just like this
Or
weird
like
thing.
inspecting each other's pores on your face and giving you skincare tips. Like either way, it's awkward.
Yeah, it's super weird. And you're not making conversation because they're working, even if they're just sitting there, they're kind of working. And
Yeah.
it's like they see
They
a
sure don't want to
gajillion
talk to
passengers.
you.
Yeah, and they don't want to talk to me. That's what I was going to say. They see a gajillion passengers. The last thing they want is to make small talk with some rando that's, going who knows where.
And who's probably sweating because he's nervous, right? Because you're nervous
Oh,
about
yeah.
making your flight, and
Yeah.
they're like, "This man is sweating, and I don't want to talk to him." Right? Okay, so
Yeah.
it's super awkward.
Yeah. Who knows?
Okay.
Got the shakes. I don't know. But they're probably like, yeah, something's going on. Anyway, there was because of the delays, there was a lot of people on the flight that were going to be delayed or whatever. So I think like the flight attendant just got tired of us all just staring at each other in total silence. I think it was a little awkward for everybody. And so he's like, hey, you got a tight connection? I'm like, yeah. And without me asking, so full props to, I don't even know his name, but some flight attendant on the United flight that I was on, he says, well, what's your flight number? And I tell him. In fact, I still remember it was 1411. And so I was like, I'm on flight 1411 to Wilmington. And without asking, he's like, well, hold on. And so he gets out his phone and he messages the gate agent for that flight. And he says, hey, we're coming into land. We're going to get here at this time. We've got a guy on our flight that's supposed to be on that. He will run. And I was like, yes, I will. I will run through New Jersey airport. So we get down. I'm like, all right. But I've been to enough airports that I know how to read the things out the window, and I see that we've passed our gate. And then the
Yeah.
pilot comes on saying we're congested, we're doing these laps, and I'm like, I'm not going to make it because we're out here, and I'm not. We're boarding, and I'm out here.
Yeah.
So he messages the gate agent again, saying, "Hey, we're on the ground. We're waiting for planes to get out of our way so that we can park." And they came back and said they will wait 25 more minutes for me. And I was
And
like,
you're like, so you're saying there's a chance?
yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, okay, okay. And so we finally get in, and so I immediately stand up, get my bag out of the overhead, and I'm queued up, right? So the gate agent now opens the door. There's me and like four others that are like, we have to run. But you can't pass the gate agent on the way back to the door. Like she's the pace car.
You could, but it's really frowned upon. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like whatever. And so she's setting this pace, and she wasn't walking slow by any means. So she was moving, but also like all of us are like, we need to like go.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like in NASCAR, which I don't watch, but I've seen enough of, where the cars are sitting there doing that like kind of dance, that little serpentine. There's
Yeah.
like me and like four other people. Like, okay, she opens the door.
Yeah, when they
And
come
because
back after a caution flag and they're all like
yeah,
waiting
exactly.
to go. Yeah, gosh, it's so much suspense just watching them like just let me go, just let me go, just let me do
I
it.
know.
Let me hit the gas.
I know.
That
That's
was you.
exactly what it felt like. That's it's just like I need to go. Because here's the other thing: Wilmington's not the biggest place, and so like okay, if I it was the last flight of the night, so if I get delayed, I'm definitely if I miss it, I'm spending the night in New Jersey, and then because of the conference, there's a lot of people flying in. So is there any open seats for standby the next day or to get me bumped in? And like I had speaking assign. It was just
I was
like
going to say, let's be clear about this. Why are we telling this story? Well, Justin is the linchpin of our entire booth, right?
yeah,
Justin's giving 2 sessions at Techno Security. Justin is, one of 3 people at the booth who can give comprehensive demos of our software. Like, it's not like Lynn didn't make it. Well, okay, maybe, no one's going to tell bad jokes at the booth. Darn it. If Justin doesn't show up, literally like 1/3 of our entire booth strategy is hosed. Okay, so this is important.
I know. I'm like, oh, I do not. This, yeah, exactly. I just don't want to hassle with this. I don't want to make that phone call. So I'm running now, and
Because let's be clear also, you would be dead to me if you missed
oh,
that
I know.
flight.
Like, you'd be like, rent a plane and fly yourself. It doesn't
That's
matter
right.
if
Get
you
in a
don't
car,
show.
do something. What do you mean you're not going to show up? Yeah. So
I
this was
know.
extremely critical. You had many, many people who'd be very mad at you.
Yeah. So I'm running through New Jersey airport, and it was not a small jog, and I'm not as in shape as I should be, but like I can run, and it was just this. Plus, I've got like a week's worth of stuff on my back,
Right. You
right?
have like a
So
body bag on your back.
I know.
Correct.
So I book it over there, and I get to the gate, and the gate agent's like, "You made it," and she's like, the what faux happiness, like whatever.
Right. They're not
She,
really that excited. They don't
yeah,
care.
she's not whatever, but like it's just like she's like, "You made it." I'm like, "Oh man, I just ran like," and right as I'm like putting my phone on the scanner, the pilot walks up and said, or walks out of the jet bridge and says, "We gotta, oh hey, you made it," like also in this probably legitimate excitement because he's sick of waiting as well. So I literally made it to the check-in right as the pilot was like, "Hey, it doesn't matter if he's running or not." So
And the fact that the pilot got up from his seat in the cockpit, walked up the jet bridge, came out, opened the door, and was like, "Where is this guy? What are we doing?" That's when you know you are for sure going to be SOL if you do not make it there in time.
I
Right?
know,
That's not even gate agents being mad at you. The pilot of the plane is like, enough is enough with this nonsense. Where is this human? And you magically appeared and everything was fine.
I know,
Thank
and
God.
you could tell that I was running. So like he was like, I think that lightened the mood with the pilot because I showed up and like obviously I had been booking it across the airport.
Right. You
And
weren't like, well, I did have to stop and get a cookie, and then I had to go to the
right,
bathroom, and then I needed to get a new phone charger. But yeah, eventually I made it here. You were like, no, man, I just did an Olympic sprint.
right. Which okay,
I might have
so
thrown my back out. So let's get this show on the road. Not sure I might be in traction tomorrow, but I'm here.
no, yeah. So especially with like I like my Vans shoes, but let's be honest, they're not built to run in. Anyway, okay, so on that topic, so we're talking as we walk down the jet bridge, me and the pilot, and I'm joking about how I could have cut across the tarmac and it would have been quicker, which he agreed, except for the jail time that would have come with it. And so we're like laughing and stuff as we go down there,
Tomato,
and
tomato. Yeah, I don't know. Some people might not be bothered by that part.
yeah, 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 whatever, So then, though, the problem is the flight that we were coming in had a little bit of turbulence, so they actually put the seatbelt on a little early and everything, and so I had to use the restroom, but I had to book it across the airport. Like I literally stopped for nothing. I ran out of the jet bridge and ran to the next jet bridge. So
Right.
so
And
then
then
though,
later on had a delayed reaction of like, I have to use the bathroom.
yeah, that's literally what it was. And so I get on the plane. I've been upgraded. So first off, I walk on, and everyone on the plane is like, "What jerk are we waiting for?" Like, who
And
is
you're
this?
like, hi, it's
Yeah,
me.
like who of all people could have delayed us by 25? Because I got there like 25 minutes after
Yeah.
they were supposed to go. So like, who is this guy that we just waited 25 minutes for?
And they're
He's a
like, that's
nobody.
him. That's
Yeah,
him.
that's him. Yeah, what a
Hmm.
what a maroon. Um, if we pull Looney Tunes out. But see, here's the thing. So all of a sudden now, I like first off I get upgraded. So I set my stuff in row 3 in there. So they're like now they're all like, oh, this idiot. Not only did we wait for him, but he's sitting up front.
Right. He thinks he's better than us. Like, oh,
I
I guess
know.
this is what money can buy, right? They all think you're
Yeah.
like some sort of, Playboy
It's a free
millionaire.
upgrade.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't. Yeah. But then I turned to the flight attendant and I said, "Hey, I just booked it here, as you know. I didn't even stop to use the restroom. Can I use the restroom before we back up and everything and get going?" And she's like, "Absolutely," because they got their checks and they got everything they got to go through.
Yeah.
So I turned towards because most airplanes that I'm on, there's one in the front. So I turned towards the cockpit and I like instantly realize, no, the restroom's in the back.
So awkward. There's no bathroom up here. I have to go walk
Oh,
past 100 plus pairs of eyeballs
yeah.
looking at me as the man who just made us all late to whatever it is we're supposed to go to next. And now he has the audacity to walk all the way back here to the very back of the plane and use the bathroom. Good job,
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah. And so that was like the walk of shame or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And anyway, I'm like, excuse. And it's like this small plane because it's just going to Wilmington, and so you're like, you can't even just like walk down the aisle. So you're kind of like, excuse me. Like it was just like, okay. Anyway, managed to make it to Wilmington in one piece. So yeah, that was the travel in. It was wild. It was wild, but
I had a quick
um,
connection in Charlotte and I made it right on time and everything was great. I did not anger anybody or annoy anybody in my flight in. So I'm going to go ahead and chalk that up as a win.
yeah. Look at looking like I think only Wilmington only takes flights from north or south.
Yeah.
So given that I was coming from the west, it's hit or miss. But
Yep. Threw the curveball. That's okay. Everybody made it. I know there were similar situations as yours of, people coming from all over the country. Even though there's an East and a West Coast Techno Security,
yeah,
people still usually try to come to their regional location.
yeah,
So yeah, there were other people trying to get in on tight time frames just like you were. But yeah,
yeah.
we made it.
So then, so interesting. The vendor booth or the exhibit hall doesn't open till afternoon of first day, but my session was kind of first thing the first day. So yeah,
Yeah, you have
posted.
a lot of trust you put in these attendees. It's like, hey, it's like the first session of the day, as the conference is beginning and no one's been to the exhibit hall and we haven't talked about it with anybody or talked it up or promoted it. Like you just are hoping everyone wakes up, gets their coffee and
Yeah,
is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and makes it into your session.
yeah.
And they
It,
did.
yeah, it was good. Some of you may have heard iterations of this, but I spoke on the need for and the importance of distributed workflows, like collaborative distributed workflows, specifically for things involving privacy. So mixed and intermingled data. So I've talked about the Barry Bonds case, and I call it the Barry Bonds case because everybody knows who Barry Bonds is, or at least like he's like an athlete or something.
Yeah.
If I were to say United States versus comprehensive drug testing,
Probably won't ring a bell.
yeah, nobody knows that. So I refer to it as the Barry Bonds case, and so we actually went through several court cases starting in the 70s and kind of work our way up through what we could say like traditional data retention with paper up into digital, and even modern things like that to where, hey, when you're working a case, especially when whether you're law enforcement or corporate and you go to a corporation to investigate or you're already in the corporation because that's where you work, not everybody is probably under investigation. Like you need to look at Justin's data, but you can't look at Lynn's data because her privacy is still whatever.
Right. You don't
And
have
so,
full reign to the entire network of the company to look at whatever you want. You can only look at data pertaining to that particular matter.
right. So, for example, like a more recent case, sort of like relatively in the 2000s, was U.S. Secret Service versus Steve Jackson Games, where the Secret Service was investigating just one employee of this company that they think were putting information and harassing comments online from a work computer. Okay, so initially, like going there and trying to find the computer that the messages were sent from for other information, that's not really a problem. But where they crossed the line again with the intermingled data and the taking a bit of a business offline was they weren't sure which computer it came from, and rather than looking on site, they literally took everything from this business, computers, servers, everything that could access the internet,
Right.
and basically crushed this company's ability to do business. But not only that, you had other employee data, customer data on there, financial data on there, HR data on there. So you had tons of other stuff that they, didn't have legal authority, probable cause to search, and they took it anyway. And so, yeah, how do you unmingle? How do you organize that data and only get it? And basically, the takeaway that all these courts kind of come to, and what we encourage today in forensics, and of course, what our software enables is, so again, they take my data and not Lynn's, but how do we get those apart? Well, maybe we have like Dan Sumter go through it, and he's the dirty team, means he sees everything. And he goes through and says, okay, this is Justin's data, and he pulls it out. And through his investigation, he may see Lynn's data, but he's going to ignore it. And then we deliver it, say, to Dan Carroll, who's going to be the clean team and only analyzes information associated with Justin. He never knows about Lynn. He never sees that. And we, on the other side, never ask Dan to testify or to report on or to whatever based on what he saw. All
Right.
his job was to extract my information. We will never, basically we never speak of him again once we
Right.
have the data.
Right. You did your
And
job. You're dead to us. Thank you very much for your service. Goodbye.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. And so that's kind of the gist of my presentation in like 5 minutes or less. Uh, is the importance of taking those legal considerations in, because what you don't ever want is to lose a case based on a technicality,
Right.
um, where you could have said, okay, hey, um, I'm going to, I'll look through the data to get the relevant information and we'll push it back out to the case investigator. And that's where, like, I know on this podcast we don't plug our software, but that's kind of the whole idea of software like FTK Central is I can be the deep dive forensic guy who could separate that data effectively and then give it out to Lynn and say, hey, here it is in a review platform, but it's all the privileged data, all the personal data that's not related to this, you can review and do your thing.
Right.
So,
You can set user permissions through your admin controls to say, like, this is only thing, these are the only things Lynn can look at because this is the only things that are relevant or responsive or, privileged or whatever it is that she's allowed to look at. The software can be the mechanism of making sure that she never sees anything she's not supposed to look at.
right. Yep. So that was my presentation. It was we had some good comments. We had a good attendance. It was good. Every time I do a presentation, I make a note of like, oh, I should probably add this. Like, oh, that was a good thing. I should. So
Oh,
I'll
what was it
probably
this
end
year?
up either recording it and putting it on YouTube, or recurring webinar type thing. Maybe a blog about it or something. I don't know, but we'll get it up there. But I
Cool.
think it was good.
Yeah. And again, just remembering back, no matter what age you are, we probably all heard of the Barry Bonds case, right? So even just dissecting that case a little bit and understanding what really happened, and not so much what was on the news about him and what he did, but what the company did.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fun to relive old cases like that too.
I will say my favorite line in the whole case, which, if any of you have read court cases, they're extremely thrilling.
They're
No,
riveting.
yeah, totally. But one of the judges calls out the government just flat out and says that they were clever by half, which is a fancy way of, I'm just going to say, calling the government smartasses. And it's like a political court worthy way of calling them that, because the government tried to argue that these. So what they did is they had an authorization to take 10 baseball players' steroid checks,
Right.
but they took all of them and started looking
Right.
through all of them.
And that was a no-no.
Yep.
That was not what was supposed to be happening.
And the government claimed it was in plain view. And we don't need to get into it in this, but, and so that was what the government was trying to say. Hey, we went for these 10, but we got these hundreds. It was like 100 and change, but it was because of the plain view exception to the Fourth Amendment. And the judge was like, no, that's clever by half because you were in the wrong spot at the wrong time, basically. Had you been following the rules initially, you would have never seen that stuff in plain view. So I just love the term clever by half because the judge just calls them out and just says, no, don't be
Which in
idiots.
translation means that's adorable, but no.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no,
You're so
none of that.
cute, nice try, but no. Yep, that's a
Yeah.
nice way of saying that in a courtroom setting.
I do recommend people, like, if you're in the forensic space and that is a concern, if you're dealing with a lot of intermingled data, even though the Barry Bonds case is, of course, I think it took place around 2002. It was eventually decided, I think, and finalized in the pre 2009 or pre 2010. I think it was like 2009 era. It sets a framework even for today of how you can prevent that risk of messing up and looking at data that you shouldn't look at and protecting that the privacy of those individuals for the sake of your case, if at the bare minimum. You don't want to lose it on a technicality because you're most likely not going to win in the appeal. So
No, and you've actually done a webinar on this topic as well, and we'll put that in the show notes because the whole webinar, like the whole
right.
long drawn out presentation, is actually really, really fascinating. So yeah, we'll put that in the show notes and you can watch that if you want to too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a guest on that one too. Now retired special agent with Homeland Security, Darren Pitt. So he came on and talked about that and some of his experiences as well in that area. And so, yeah, it was cool.
There you go. We're making a playlist for you. Look at that.
There you go. Okay, so that was morning day one. And so then the booth in the vendor hall opened that afternoon. And
Oh man,
the
it was
only
crazy.
thing that rivals Techno swag attacks is IASIS. I've never seen anything like that. That's a topic for a different time. But man, people come in and they're looking for the swag. And in fairness, like we said earlier, and we can come back to this, the conversations were amazing. The initial hit is always for what they can get. And we
And
had
let's be honest, we are also looking at swag too. We're also like looking over, oh, what does that booth have? What does that booth? Okay, let me put my order in, and if there's anything left, because I'm a vendor, right? Like I'm a vendor and I'll wait my turn. But yeah, let me check out and see what I might want for some swag. Everyone had some cool swag this year. Great shirts, totally different items, things we've never seen before. Awesome hats. Everyone had some cool hats.
yeah.
You have a cool hat on if you're watching this on video. If you're not, you need to get on YouTube and watch these podcasts in video form, not just audio form. But yeah, we had cool hats. Everybody had cool hats. That was kind of a good item this year. And not just like, regular old $5 dad hats,
No, yeah.
like cool flat brim structured Richardson brand, like really nice hats.
Yeah, there was a lot of I think I came home with
Yeah.
two,
How many
maybe
hats did
three
you get?
shirts. I don't think I got any hats this year.
I did see other people kind of brandishing them and showing them off. And I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah. I do think don't tell Christy and Andrew. I do think I took home two of our own hats though. But
Hey, you earned
you
it.
know,
Okay.
yeah,
You're fine.
that's my yearly bonus is I take if I need some swag, I just pull some out before the vendor hall opens. So
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the
uh
fun part. Day one of a conference, the vendor hall opens, right? Everybody's been in some sessions, they're getting some lunch, and then suddenly it's time to go socialize, right? And it's so exciting because everyone is so excited to catch up, right? There's been no like social events that have happened yet to that point. And it's like the time where everybody gets to walk around and say hi to all their friends and catch up. We like to catch up with other vendors. We like to catch up with
yeah.
clients. Everybody does the same. And yeah, we had a pretty cool booth draw this year that everybody, I have a feeling, people are going to have this idea at the next conference we go to because it was just that good. What did we have? Tell us what we had.
So it was a claw machine and not like sometimes and our company is no different. Sometimes the we'll say gimmicks to bring people in are based on things like a little mini golf thing, but it's like you bought this at Walmart, like whatever, and you can putt putt.
Right.
No, no, no. This is like a legit claw machine,
Yeah, this is no
and
joke. This was like a real live, plucked out of an arcade, full sized, but
yeah,
yet functioning and winnable
yeah,
version of the claw machine. Because at the arcade, you never win anything out of the claw machine. The little prongs that reach down to grab the teddy bear out are never strong enough to get anything, and you will literally waste all of your money. But not at Xtero, because we are kind to the people.
that's right.
Right?
Yeah, we
Everyone's a winner. Everyone's a winner. Doesn't matter how many tokens it takes you. Everyone is a winner.
yeah
That's the
we
secret.
yeah. Everybody got 3 tokens right off the rip, but
Yep.
let's be honest, we would if they wanted to, we kept feeding them tokens. And I didn't. I mean, I knew that carnival games like that are rigged, but even our machine has a switch in the back to easy, like
Easy,
how
medium, and difficult. And
yeah,
even the easy setting was a little difficult depending on what you were trying to get. But I couldn't imagine what the difficult setting would be like. My God, that'd be horrible. We'd be so mean.
yeah.
We'd be
No, we had it
mean.
set to easy just for anyone who tried it. We had it set as easy as it would go. But yeah, like you said, we had so many vendors coming and taking pictures of the thing. I think, hopefully for the sake of all the attendees, they do see some more claw machines because they're fun.
Yeah, they are fun.
Um, but yeah, the claw machine, it was one of those things where it's really what you want as a thing, because people were just standing there in line waiting to do the claw machine. And so yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And
uh
let's be honest, there were a few people, and they shall remain nameless, and they were all lovely, but they were really determined and might have gotten a little carried away and might have missed a few sessions that they thought they wanted to attend
yeah,
because they were not going to give up, and they wanted the water bottle or the hat or the t-shirt or the, flash drive or whatever the thing was that they had their eye on. There were a few people I feel like were a little irresponsible and spent a lot of time there. And we
yeah,
won't tell on them, but next year we're gonna have to encourage everybody to make sure they go to all the sessions.
yeah. Maybe when the vendor hall is like, because there's times where there's no classes for vendors, we'll just crank it down to easy. But if the classes are going, we'll crank it up to hard. So maybe it discourages them a little bit and they go back to class. So,
Yeah, I just had this overwhelming responsibility that I felt, where I was like, gosh, I feel terrible that you're here on this claw machine trying to win this t-shirt, when you should be getting educated in one of these sessions. And so, yes, I was very conflicted all week, but it was fascinating to watch people win. So I was like, oh, I'm not, I kind of, I'm torn here because I want to watch you win this water bottle. This is
yeah,
fascinating because you had to remove certain, the strategy of claw machines. Sometimes you had to remove the items around or adjacent to the item that you want in order for you to free up and loosen the item that you want. And so there were some very different strategies, lots of interesting takes on weight and balancing and physics to get things out of this claw machine. I was very impressed with some people's resolve.
yeah. Uh, so the claw machine, super hit. Big thanks to Christy and Andrew. If you guys ever run into them at events or whatever, they work really hard to execute, and we are grateful because honestly, then we don't have to do it,
Yep,
and
they're the
they do a
magical
great job.
people. They're magic. They set everything up and make everything look and run perfectly. And yeah, they're our events crew, and they're amazing. We love them.
Yeah. Which, in addition to that, we had our after hours event on the first night. So it was like basically across the parking lot at the Aloft Hotel, and we had a lot of people show up. But the one of the things that we did,
I think a lot is an understatement. Maybe we'll
yeah,
pick a different word for that as we tell you this story.
yeah. So I actually don't know the final count. I haven't asked, but it was
148.
148. There we go. So we had a
One,
lot of people. That's a lot of people,
yeah,
I think.
148 lovely, lovely people. We were so honored that they showed up to our happy hour event. That was really cool.
This may be like a old person moment, but it got so loud inside of that room because people are talking and then like it gets louder and then it just like cranks up, so you almost had to like, fortunately we had this outdoor patio area too, so you could go out and talk. But I think everybody was having a good time. We had like, we'll call it event supplied food, like the venue supplied food, that would be better. That was gone in like 25 minutes, like
Yeah.
almost instantly. And so we ended up ordering 40 pizzas and 220 pizza delivery. And the first order of pizza, the 20 that showed up, it was gone in like instantly. And
Yeah.
then the next one came, and then we probably only had, I don't know, a couple boxes of
Yeah.
like, like once you pile them all in, maybe 3 boxes. So, left over 4 boxes maybe or something.
It was a pivotal moment. You got a room full of 150 people that may or may not have eaten any food, and they are very hungry and they're staring at you. And
Yeah.
there were no other competing events really going on that night. And so everybody was like, here we are, we're ready to eat. And we ran out of food and we thought, okay, this is it. What do we do? What are we going to do? Do we turn the lights on and tell everybody the party's over? What do we do?
Yeah.
And so we immediately went to DoorDash and ordered 40 pizzas. And like you said, we didn't order 40 pizzas in one in restaurant from one restaurant because they would
Yeah.
probably think that was a fake order. Who orders 40 pizzas at the last second for emergency delivery, right? That seems
Yeah.
fishy. So we actually split it up and ordered, to your point, 20 and 20 because we thought, well, at least we have a chance. Maybe one of them won't ship and we'll at
Yeah.
least get 20 pizzas out of it. So no, it worked perfectly. Everybody was super happy. Everybody totally hung in there. People were like, this is great. Like, we can't believe you guys just kept ordering food. Like, you guys are awesome. This is really nice of you. Like, we know you didn't have to do that. Like, this is great. Like, everybody had an awesome time. Everybody was networking, chatting. And eventually everybody had a full belly. And yeah, it was really
Yeah.
fun.
We ended up not ended up, I mean, this was a goal, but we had a raffle and we gave away 10 copies of FTK standalone, a 1 year license, 1 year full license, and that included on demand training. So it was kind of fun. People got into the drawing. I know there was a few people that weren't there when we drew, so that's too bad, but we did
Snooze,
say
you
we were going to be
lose.
there. But
Sorry.
so anyway, that was good times,
Yeah.
and that kind of, I for the sake of the privacy of certain individuals, we're going to say that ended the night around like 10 o'clock. I will say I did not get back to my hotel room till 2 a.m. But there was some stuff that went on. Everybody's safe, everybody's fine. It was not due to any shenanigans, just some small health things. But so it ended up being a late night. But yeah, then
Well, let's
it
just say this. If you got sick while you were in Wilmington at this conference and you felt like maybe it was coming out of both ends, maybe that's the nicest way we
yeah.
can say it. You were not alone. There were other people that were also very sick, and there was nothing you could do about it because it's like same thing when you're on a cruise ship. Once it starts making the rounds, you cannot escape it.
Yeah.
So yes, if you were one of the unlucky people that got sick, we feel for you. We had a few people even on our team that got really sick. Again, nothing to do with drinking or anything silly, just literally virus going
Yeah, just
around.
got them. So I helped them out,
Yep.
make sure they were taken care of.
Well, you were on
Um,
West Coast time, and
yeah,
so
but so fortunately,
you were
that's what.
unfairly nominated.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was not a problem. I was happy to do it. I also don't drink, so I was sober and could drive. Uh, Unlike most of our team, I don't know how bad they were, but let's just be safer than sorry.
Yep,
So
you were
yep.
the best choice.
So then next day two starts, and we had in the morning we had 2 sessions that morning. We had Dan Carroll, and I did the second half of it, but Dan Carroll spoke on the importance of automation and scalability in a forensic lab. And
Big hot topic right now.
yeah, and I feel like automation unfortunately has kind of become a buzzword. Blame marketing people. Dang, that's
Ugh, marketing
that's
people. Wait, that's us. Darn it.
I know, but I do think that people are kind of downplaying automation a little bit because of the marketing buzz around it. But he talked heavily on the automation of the mundane, like setting up cases and getting cases processed and different stuff like that. So super important that we look at automation as a solution. And the only thing, you know, it's we're differentiating from AI and automation are not the same thing. So automation is just, again, those repeatable processes. But one of the key takeaways, and I just actually read an article on LinkedIn about standardization. This was in the UK, standardization for the ISO standards and all that sort of stuff. And automation will help you there. So if you're part of an organization or an agency or whatever that has those ISO standards or any type of policy, automation can help you comply with those. It really, because you take out that human element to even make mistakes. It's like the automation just does what you've told it to do every
Right.
single time, and you can follow that policy. So, super important topic. Even if I feel like now, whenever people mention automation, it's kind of like, here we go, you know. But I think it's super important to
Well,
do
right.
that.
If you have any sort of standards that you need to hold yourself to in a forensic lab in the way that you handle evidence and you don't want to mess anything up, yes, automation can be your best friend because you ensure, to your point, that no human being is even has their hand in the cookie jar to even mess anything up,
Yeah.
right? There's no human involved in certain parts of the process or the workflow, so that there's even a possibility that something could get messed up.
Right.
And also, I think one of the reasons that automation gets watered down a little bit, unfortunately, is because in marketing, right? We pointed ourselves in marketing. That's us. Yeah, we're automation is amazing. Look at all the things that automation can help you do, but in real life, if the automation tool doesn't work or it's hard to use or you can't program it without a special computer degree just to use that one automation tool, right? It's not really that useful and you don't reap any of the benefits if you can't even program it. So, yeah, I think any of you out there that are looking at automation and thinking, yeah, we really need to, yeah, I know it's kind of a buzzword, but we really need to get on that. Like, you have to find a tool that is easy to use and functions and is proven, because there's unfortunately a lot of tools out there that look great in a marketing brochure but do not work in the real world.
Right.
So you can just infer from that what you would like. Because
Yeah.
we work at Xtero and our tool is really great. But yeah.
Absolutely. So the second part of his presentation, and he talked a lot about it, scalability, and then I went over some case studies of places where we have implemented our software. But this actually came up. So one of the people in his session, that's what he was specifically looking for, was a scalable solution in some interesting applications. And this is always a thing. I also feel like speed and fastest and faster are these words that are also words that mean nothing anymore, because we use them. But at the end of the
Yep.
day, everybody wants a fast software, fast processing, as a fast solution. Um, and but you don't need it all the time. And so, how do you scale up your lab and scale it down? And so we talked about that. We talked about some case studies and how that's important, both on prem, so if you're using Metal in house, or in the cloud if you're going to use a SaaS environment or something like that. So super important. Lot of good. It was a very well populated session. Had some good discussion. It was good overall. It was a great session by our product manager Dan Carroll. He works with Harsh and others to build our product. So he was a good speaker to have there. So
It is always a treat when the product team gets out on the road and comes to conferences with us, because they're the ones that build the roadmap, right? They're the ones that talk to customers and figure out what we're going to build and when we're going to build it and how we're going to build it and what the priority is in terms of which features need to come first and which ones can wait. So yeah, for him to be here, presenting a session, talking about these topics, that's a treat. We love that.
yep. And it was always nice to somebody be like, "Well, when's that feature coming?" And you just turn and point
Right.
at Dan Carroll and you'd be like, "Ask that man.
Ask
Ask
my
him."
colleague standing here, my
Yeah,
esteemed colleague. Thank God he's standing here next to me. Right. I love it when
ex-
that happens.
exactly. Don't, I'm not going to say anything. He will say stuff.
Yeah.
So then immediately following that, uh, Dan Sumter, our director of training, his presentation on reporting. how to organize your bookmarks and your labels for setting yourself up for success with a report. And so we've got a lot of new optimizations coming in our reporting tool here in a few weeks. So be on the lookout for that. But his session on reporting was well received. We had a lot of comments from people in attendance too about, hey, I do this or I do that, or different things. So those are kind of the best when that happens in a presentation. And I'm going to include webinars in that. I give a lot of webinars as well. So at least for my webinars, if you have some insight into the topic, share it in the comment section. Start a discussion in the comment section about what's good, what's not. If you do, even especially if you do something different, I think that's super important. And I love when that happens in my presentations. I know Sumter was cool with it as well. I think that's really what gives a conference its value, is that opportunity to not just learn from the presenters, although they are bringing, I think, something special to the situation, but you are surrounded by, I don't know what the count was, a couple hundred minimum, like up close to 1,000, I'm sure, I don't even know, but people that are doing what you do in some capacity, or maybe they're doing something parallel to what you do, but you can still learn something from them. So in those sessions, at least, again, I can only speak for my session, and I know Sumter likes doing it as well. It's okay to comment, and I think somebody can learn from you just like you can learn from anybody in that room, and super important. And that's one of the things Lynn and I want to talk about, is why you should be going to shows like Techno. And
We
there's
know what they
many
say
others.
about social media, right? The magic is in the comments.
Yeah.
Right? All the magic happens. It might not be magic. It might be arguments. Who knows? But all the magic happens in the comments. It's the same thing with Techno Security or any conference that you go to in person where you can all get together. The magic happens in the discussions and the conversations and the questions that are asked. Because yes, Justin, you're an amazing speaker and you know a lot about a lot. But yeah, who wouldn't want to hear from somebody who's literally doing this every single day, still in their current job,
Yeah.
and solving problems and figuring out workarounds. Yeah, I mean, we love listening to you speak, but to your point, I think it's great that you guys love listening to what everyone else is doing out in the real world, because then guess what? We just came up with a whole new presentation we can give next time around, because
Yeah.
we all learned something new today, right? That's the point. It's not to just walk around and get, well, I mean, it is to walk around and get swag. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
It's very important to walk around and get swag. That's an awesome reason to go to conferences. But yeah, I think the networking, yes, in the hallway, seeing people, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in forever, let me give you a hug, oh man, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
But the sessions, that Q&A time, the ability for you to raise your hand and be like, actually, I just worked on something last week and this was my experience, like that discussion, that is where the magic happens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think, like, looking at this year again, I don't know the count. I don't know if it was more or less than previous years or whatever, but I do feel like whatever it was, this group that was at Techno this year was more engaged in the networking aspect, in the class attendance things,
Yeah.
because our classes were full. Every other, it just seemed like everybody was very present at the conference this year, which is really cool to see. We had a lot of
Yeah.
cool discussions at the booth, things in the hallways, things at the after hours event, all that sort of stuff. And so that's really cool. A lot of people came up to me because they've seen me on webinars and YouTube and these and stuff. And so there was pictures with people. That was fun. And then not
You're
only
kind,
that,
you're
but
kind of a big deal.
oh
It's
yeah,
okay. We can say it. You're kind of a big
uh,
deal.
I don't know about that, but one thing as far as influence like that was cool is we earlier this year we went out to IASIS and we did a podcast episode with Fran Wozniak of the IASIS podcast. We did a joint thing there, and we gave out the final count of licenses that we gave out at IASIS was 449.
For free.
Yeah, 1 year licenses with our automation package and training and an ACE certification, all for free, to the BCFE attendees and the staff there at IASIS. And 449 may seem like a weird number, but that's because we made a few extra, and the extra ones that we handed out, we only didn't give away one of our printed out codes sheets thing, which is kind of funny. I was like, we were like trying to find somebody to give it to, but it was like a physical thing, and I don't know. Anyway, we had other conferences, but 449 given out, and yeah. So, and what's cool about that is, and don't tell Bella, but I've ran into 3 or 4 people here at ICAC Southeast in Atlanta that are like, "Oh yeah, I got that form at IASIS. I need to do that." And I'm like, "You were supposed to do it before the end of May."
Our colleague Bella is going to be very mad at you. You better get your license
Yeah,
claimed and registered.
yeah. So I think and sales is final call on that. But the point is a lot of people are talking about that, and it's cool to see that people were excited about those, the presence of Xtero and FTK at these conferences. I think we had a good time with them. I think, they're seeing value in various things. It was just good. But
Yeah, we were really proud to give all those licenses away, right?
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just like, hey, let's give some free stuff away so we can put a press release out. We don't care about that part. We want people to use the software to take their exam, right? And get their certification and have a tool available to them for free that's more than just FTK Imager, which is our free imaging tool that everybody and their mother, sister, brother, or dog has,
Yeah.
right? It was really important for us to make sure that like people have a good, robust tool as they are trying to do something really important and accomplish in their career, which is passing that exam. So
Exactly.
yeah, we were really proud about that. And I'm glad, to your point, everyone, would walk by and be like, "Oh, I heard about what you guys did at IASIS. That's really cool."
Yeah.
Like that, yep, not to get all sappy, but it's like, man, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes you warm and
So,
fuzzy on the inside.
So, so I was gonna say the one I think mistake that I made. I actually was talking to um, Bella about our upcoming webinar schedule, and so the night I had to go take care of some coworkers, I was up super late, had to be up early, and of course, because of the time zone stuff, it was weird. I think I had 3 monsters. I drank 3 monsters the second day of the conference, like one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and one in that
I was
evening.
seriously worried about the state of your cardiac health. I'm not going to lie. I was
What?
constantly like looking at you, like, how many fingers am I holding up? Can you
I know.
see? Are you breathing? Do you have palpitations? Is your vision blurry? Like, I need a proof of life. What's happening?
I know. So they're
That's a
all sugar
lot.
free, by the way. I don't drink sugar. At least, let's be honest. Who knows what's in diet? But at least I don't drink sugar. But it was like, so my heart felt fine. I think, what is fine, what is normal. I don't know, but
Exactly.
it, like, I swear it like burned my mouth. Like my mouth felt weird. So I was
Probably
like, I
not
literally,
talking.
like, normally I'll drink a lot. Like, that's one of the things, if you see me at a conference or whatever, or on a podcast where you can see a video or a webinar, I'll usually be drinking something just to kind of keep whatever. And I mean, by weight, this is mostly water. Yeah, see, carbonated water, number one on the list. But that was like one of the first times where I was like, I think I overdid it. The fact that my mouth hurts because I've drank, I don't know what size of those cans are, but way too much. 3 of those, like, at the end of the
All of
day.
your like capillaries in your entire body were like constricted all at once.
Yeah.
Something was happening. You were like about to turn into the Hulk. We don't really know.
Yeah. Well, I went out to eat with the team that night, and I only got ice water at the place we were at. And everybody was sitting there looking at me like, what's wrong? Because I always get like Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi or something. I'm like, no, I can't take any more carbonation or whatever. So, but that was my one mistake. I think this conference was a bit much. But so I have a going home travel story, Lynn, to share. But before we get there, is there anything else that kind of happened at the conference that we didn't really cover that you wanna touch on?
I don't think so. I think we hit the high points, right? Awesome booth. The claw machine was a big hit. It was just really fun. People were like, "I haven't played this since I was a kid. This is so much fun." Like we got so many smiles. Like people had a great time. We did awesome sessions. All three of our sessions this year were amazing. We had great attendance, great feedback. Did a lot of booth demos. People are super excited. They're like, "That's FTK? No way!" Right? When you show them
Yeah.
a demo of the new interface, that's FTK. My gosh, wow, it looks awesome. So that's the name of the game, right? You want to just make sure everybody knows what's you spend so much time and effort, putting out into the world, and you want to make sure everybody sees it. So that was great. IASIS carryover, everybody being really pleased about our IASIS donation. That was awesome. Yeah. And you did not go into cardiac arrest over
No.
extreme amount of energy drinks. That was a huge win. Yeah.
Yeah. So remind me after my travel story, because I do want to promote people jumping on the podcast. So we'll get there in a second. So I can't get, like, very rarely due to the size of my airport, I can't leave the night of. So half of our team, if not more than half, left Thursday evening or
Myself
afternoon.
included.
Yeah. But I always have to wait till the next morning. Okay. So get to Wilmington Airport, whatever, in the AM, like 7:30 or whatever, which is fun because, especially, like, there's a lot of us that do a lot of the conferences, so we start to chat with each other, we start to know each other, so that we're all hanging out in the terminal, like Dirk from Oxygen and those types of things,
All our
just hanging
friends.
out.
Yeah.
So uh, it's almost time to board. And one of the things for, like, if you fly on the same airline, you start to get the perks of, you get free upgrades. So there was two available upgrades for this flight, but I'm looking at the crew of people here, and it's all like the conference circuit people.
Hmm.
So
Everybody's
everybody's
racked up a
like,
bunch of
okay,
miles. It's a neck and neck game at this point.
yeah, yeah. So then the upgrades came through, and I got one. I'm like, yes.
Or
And so then it was funny because everybody was like, going back and forth about who got the upgrades and blah 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 blah. And how
you
oh,
should
we just
were you
missed it and
showboating a
all
little
this kind of
bit? You
stuff.
were showboating just a little bit.
And I just kept quiet. I'm like, no, I'm just I'm gonna ride this one out, until I sat down, and then they knew.
Yep.
Um. Anyway, the flight from Wilmington back up to New Jersey went fine. I think I had a 2 or 3 hour layover again. Yeah, 3 hour layover. So I go to the lounge, hang out in there. Then I got a transfer from C to A, and the A terminal, I don't know if it's new, but it looks really nice.
And which airport was this?
New Jersey.
In Newark.
Yeah, Newark.
Okay.
Yeah, EWR. And so, like I said, New Jersey's like one of my least favorite airports, but that's C terminal. Like, if A terminal, like, okay, A terminal's not so bad. But that's the first time I've ever been there. But go to there, board the flight, take off. It's all going good. And so we're going. I'm watching Dune, the new ones.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I hear the pilot come on, and we're in kind of this weird, like, the pilots have a cadence, right? They talk to you at the beginning, they talk to you at the end, and the only time you really hear them in the middle is like, flight attendants, take your jump seats, or something that quick.
Right. Or if something really bad's about to happen.
Right. I mean, really bad relative, but so all of a sudden I can hear the pilot on, and he's still talking. So that's my clue to, oh, I need to zone in. So I immediately hit pause on my earbuds, and I hit that, and he's like, so we're going to have to divert to Colorado Springs, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
And I'm like,
Not expected.
oh, you've got to be kidding me. And so then he said, because there's already 30 planes in a holding pattern over Denver,
Wow.
and the pattern that they need us to go to is on the west side of the Rockies. And he's like, I don't have enough fuel to fly to the west side of the Rockies, circle in a holding pattern, wait for 30 planes to land, and then us land.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
he's like, so we need to divert to Colorado Springs, get more fuel, and then we'll head over from Colorado Springs to the Denver airport.
Right. And let's remind our listeners that you do not live in Colorado. You
No,
still
no,
have
I
to
got one
get,
more hop.
you
Yeah,
still have one more leg to get to. And now we're going to a completely different airport to refuel. And then God knows where you're going to go after that if you make it where you're supposed to go.
right. So I look at he gets on and he says, "Hey, the reason is there's high winds, but the winds seem to be dying, so we may just basically touch down, get fuel, go back up, and land." So I'm thinking, okay, I got 3 hours.
Yeah.
I
It
have a
could be
good
doable.
shot at still making it. So we come in, we land at Colorado Springs. There's a lineup of airplanes going, and we're sitting there, and I'm just watching my watch and this, that, and whatever. And we've been refueled. And basically, he comes on and he says, "Okay, hey, we're going to be taking off like very soon. Medical emergency now." So,
Yeah.
wait, but before that, though, I'm sitting on the ground. We're only an hour and a half Uber ride from the Denver airport. Obviously, they're not going to let us off for security reasons, but I'm like, they could just let us off and we could Uber to Denver faster
Right.
than this flight.
Yeah. So
Um,
frustrating. You're like, I could just handle this myself. Just let me off the plane.
I know, but I get it. I'm not, whatever. It's just one of
Right.
those funny things. Like we had to divert, like whatever. So this woman, speaking of, people getting sick, and I don't know, where she came from, if she was associated, but she was so sick she could barely walk. I guess she was in the back of the plane, losing it out, definitely throwing up. And then I could see her out my window. They had to help her down the stairs, and she's sitting on this van, like that opened the door, and she was sitting there just throwing up constantly, just constantly into this bag, into this bag. And I'm like, man, she is having an awful day.
Yeah.
And it's policy that the captain, like the can't leave that person until they're in the ambulance, even though there's like 6 United personnel sitting right there with her.
And a
But
whole terminal full of other people that
I
could
know,
absolutely help. Right. Just
like,
right over the runway. There are thousands of people that could be helpful.
I know, and it's like I get like whatever, but it's not like we just landed at some random thing, pushed her out the door, and then took off again. Like
Right.
there's people here, so I'm sitting here like, oh my goodness, where is this ambulance? So you've got nothing else to do, so I'm looking out the window and I'm just watching the captain's head, because as soon as he started doing this, I'm like, okay, are they here?
Right.
And then
He's looking, you see him looking around.
yeah, and so
Right.
he walks on anyway. So we take off now, and Colorado Springs is so close to the Denver airport. I think we only got, I don't know what, I'm not a pilot, but we maybe only got to 10,000 feet. Like, and
Yeah.
it was just like the pilot comes on, he's like, "Yeah, we've started our descent." I'm like, "We just got up in the air," and so it was like a literal quick
Yeah.
hop. Managed to, that 3 hour layover was 2.5 hours were eaten up, but we landed in A terminal, had to go over to B terminal, managed to get there with about 10 minutes to spare before boarding, but it was just another Toad's Wild ride to
Yeah.
get home. So yeah.
So the fellow from our company, one of the people from our company that got really sick, he said that his doctor told him that, yep, it is like, whether it's norovirus or, whatever strain of whatever it is, which is again throwing up and the other end as well.
Hmm.
It is ripping through airports in the US right now. So any of you who have to get on an airplane between now and the next couple weeks here in the summer, you need to be very, very careful about what you eat and drink and what you touch, because it's not a respiratory thing. It is you will live your life in the bathroom for the next 2 days kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, this is your warning. You've been warned. It's very serious. Justin watched the woman have to get, removed from the plane and couldn't even walk on her, with
Yeah.
her own strength because she was throwing up so violently. So
Yeah. I
everybody be careful out there.
I know it's policy, but I was telling my wife, I was like, "Hey, if that ever happens to me, especially if you're with me, just waive all responsibility from the captain. I do not want to. This is just me. I'm not throwing this on the woman that was sick. I'm like, my personality is like, I waive all whatever. If I die on this tarmac, it is not your fault. Do not have these 200 people waiting on me." That's
Right.
just my thing. Like, listen,
Don't hold the
you're not
plane
going to do anything
hostage
for me.
waiting on me.
Yeah, just like if they're not even here, like, are they coming? Yeah. then lay me here on the tarmac and just put a cone next to me so nobody runs over me. I'll be fine. Like, do not wait on me. Like, that would just like drive me nuts.
Just cover me with some sort of airplane blanket and put a cone, an orange cone next to me, and
Yeah.
just
Like,
leave me
no,
there.
I can't. Don't do it. Don't do it. But yeah, it made for some good stories. But Techno was great this year. I was home for 48 hours. Now I'm at ICAC Southeast. But
Yep.
yeah, it was good. It was a great conference. So
Yep.
absolutely.
Well, I'm glad that you made it home, and I'm glad you had a little bit of rest because, yeah, you're back at it again. We've got ICAT conferences, we've got all kinds of things going on this summer. So, yep, you're a
Yeah.
road warrior this summer for sure. And like we talked about a little bit, in another month, we have a big release coming out of our product. So,
Yeah.
we'll have so much more to talk about in the coming weeks, which is always really fun.
Yeah.
A lot of hard work culminating in a pretty fun launch. It's always fun.
Absolutely. So one thing I did want to say, kind of in closing, is I think we've had a really good lineup in what we're calling season two so far. We've had a lot of great guests. I think a lot of great topics, and we've seen, the reception has been positive so far. And our lineup coming up after this episode is really strong as well. We've got a lot of cool people that are going to be presenting on projects they've worked on and are working on that I think people will be interested in. But that having been said, if you have interesting stories or you have questions or you want to give input or whatever, we do have an email dedicated to this. It's FTK over the air at extero.com. And you can hit us up. We are down to have whoever on that wants to talk. If you have adjudicated cases you want to walk through to kind of, show us how it's done, share some insights. If you made a cool discovery during the case, let's do it. Let's chat about it. I think people would be interested in it. That goes whether you work in law enforcement, you work in corporate. If it's a case that crosses from forensics to e-discovery, we're down. It's, we just want to share works and technologies and thoughts and attitudes with the forensic community. So hit us up, FTK over the air at xterra.com, or of course you can email either of us directly, at our emails, which is justin.tolman at xterra or lynn.rusian at xterra.com. So yeah, reach out if you want to be part, for sure.
Yeah, if you've been sitting there and you're like, man, I worked on a case like that they're talking about, or like I set up some automation and I, changed my life, or like I've scaled my lab up, or, I figured out a new way to do image grading that's like revolutionary, or, I
Yeah.
figured out like a way to do reporting and a way for me to loop in all these people on my team that I didn't know how to do before. Like if you have done anything that you think other people could benefit from and you're sitting there thinking like, I don't know, I'm just like a random forensic investigator and who am I? Well, you know what? We would like you. It doesn't matter. We don't even, you don't have to be a published author or, a professional speaker or, anybody that everybody already knows. We love meeting people that have really awesome careers and really great stories. And like Justin said, an adjudicated case, maybe not a live case, because that's probably something you're not supposed to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, any cases that have already wrapped up, let's dissect them. That's our favorite thing to do. So
Absolutely.
if you're sitting there thinking they're not talking about me, we're absolutely talking about you. So give us a
Behind your
call.
back.
Yep. Send us an email. We would love to talk to you and figure out how that fits in. Justin, we were on a webinar just a couple weeks ago, and there was a really nice man that said, "Yeah, made a little joke because he had moved from law enforcement into corporate forensics, and made a little joke." And we were like, you know what? That man probably has had neat life experience. We should have him on the podcast, right? It doesn't
Absolutely.
matter who you are. We want to know what people are doing out in the world and what is working for you, and like some crazy case you had, or just something really neat that you figured out how to do that no one maybe has figured out, and that you would like to share with people. Let's hear it. We'd love it.
100%. Okay. Well, Lynn, good to have you on the podcast again.
Of course, anytime. I'm not going to hold you back when you have serious discussions with, some of these heavy hitter guests. But yes, every once in a while I'll pop back in. No worries.
For sure. All right. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again in the next one.
See you guys later. Bye.